You know, part of it was that we decided to do before 2011. When didn't they open in 11?
I think it was, oh man, they were.
That was
I'm pretty sure they were before
I
11.
have the shirt
Oh,
on.
nice.
2010.
2010, huh?
Yeah.
What happened to the Saman brothers? To Bryce and his brother, Saman? Whatever happened to
Oh
them?
yeah, those guys.
Oh.
The
Yeah.
Hoagies guys. They're
They,
around.
Oh,
They were involved at the beginning.
TJ and Bryce.
Yeah.
Yeah, weren't they the first guys to surf the wedge?
Yeah,
Oh, they
Yeah.
were.
it,
I
man.
remember that video, man. It was crazy.
They were always so fun, so super fun.
The Hobie twins.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. That's right, Chris.
That's what we used to call them.
Okay,
That's
you
right.
guys, we are live on Facebook. So let me give a little introduction and then we'll get to all this good stuff. We're already talking story, you guys. So thanks if you're joining us. If you've heard one of these other SUP-centric discussions, I just think it's a really good time to talk for a bunch of reasons. It's the COVID thing going on. Stand-up paddling, as we're going to hear, is in about its 15th or 16th year in Southern California for some of the people on this call. But it's just fun and it's good to start collecting our thoughts and getting ourselves a little organized and hear stories. But this is mainly just fun today. We've dug up some t-shirts and things, and we're going to talk mostly about pre-2011 and really how people got started. So we have some OGs from stand-up paddle racing on the call right now, and might have a few more popping in, hopefully, who have some busy things on their schedule. Brandy's at work. Byron's out and about. Betsy's
Come on,
working
help
on
me
getting
out
in here.
here.
Oops,
Is that
who's
you,
that?
Betsy?
Is that Betsy?
I gotta see
Come
you.
on, my
Betsy,
microphone's on, but you can't see me. Oh, we're live, aren't we?
yeah, we are.
Dog. Oh my God.
We have the amazing Betsy Risner's voice and dog.
Betsy.
Hi guys.
Yeah, there's a video camera you need to turn on. So,
It just won't let me. It says my camera's not latched properly. Click browser media permission settings.
yeah,
I don't know
sorry.
where.
Well,
go.
we're
Hey, Betsy.
live right now, so I'll let Terry and you text each other about it. If that's okay. So, hey, we're going to go down the line and just do little introductions. So a couple of these people actually started racing in 2006. In fact, they were the first stand-up paddle racers in Southern California. So Chris Koerner, I'm going to start with you just a little bit. We'll get more in talking story, but what led you to stand-up paddling and when was that first race?
Well, let's see. I come from a lifeguarding background, so I did a lot of ocean racing. When I moved to California, I started doing some of the ocean races, paddleboard races, rock to rock, and some other ones. And around 2003, I had a rotator cuff injury and had a really hard time getting full extension to prone paddle. It was real painful. I didn't get surgery. I just did a lot of physical therapy. So I'd seen that video of Laird at Malibu riding that wave with the American flag and the big paddle. And I thought, and I had a tandem board. I used to be on the Infinity, tandem team, and use that board for paddling with, or surfing with my kids and my dog and surfers healing. And I said, I can stand on this thing. So I made a paddle and I got out and I paddled around the harbor with the thing. And, it was a little wobbly. My legs were burning, but it was a whole lot of fun. It was 11 foot by 25 inches wide. And so that was my very first SUP paddle board.
Was a tandem
I tell the
surfboard.
story one time on Infinity. I remember one time Steve and Barry were at Dog Patch or Fort Worth or wherever. They were on their ski, and I'm paddling around on this thing and falling in, trying to catch waves. It was like 04 or something like that. And I remember Steve and Barry paddling up, and Barry's like, "Hey, I look stupid standing on a board like that." And Steve's like, "Yeah, you should put that paddle on the beach and get more waves." And I thought that was pretty funny.
That came from Infinity, huh?
How things change after that. But they made boards for me for a couple of years, and
Yeah.
we had a blast with it. But then I used that board in the Hano in 2006, first time, and that was very painful, and things fell so fast after that. It was really incredible.
But you really broke ground for us. I mean, you were the only stand-up paddler and the first one. And I did text Dan Van Dyke to ask if, was it a big deal? He said, no. Chris just asked me and I said, yes, we've always been inclusive. that, the SoCal Ocean Racing Series, which still goes on to this day, is all about lots of different watercraft. And they let us in right there from the beginning. So January 2006.
Chancellor was race director. And I said, yeah, I'm going to paddle a stand-up board or a beach board board. She goes, what's that? I said, well, I got a big paddle. I'm going to stand up on my board. She goes, oh, that's fine. So that was it. Now you let me do
Cool,
it.
whatever.
I was influenced by, prior to that, I don't think it was official, but Archie Kalepa did do the Molokai on a full-size 12-foot surfboard in like a year or two before. And that was a big influence for me seeing that. And I figured, well, here's a Hano. I've been doing that since the 90s on all kinds of craft. I figured, well, I'll do something different. At least I'll get a short, right?
So for you, is lifeguard influence layered in Malibu and what was going on in Hawaii a little bit before us getting going?
Yeah,
So
definitely a lot of influence there.
did we lose EJ? He's still on here?
Where is
Ernest
he?
Johnson, where are you?
Brother
Oh,
EJ,
bummer.
where are you?
Okay, well, hopefully he will sign back in because he also started in 2006, which I didn't realize he had started that early.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick screen share because Chris sent over some awesome pictures. So Chris in January of 2006 was,
Wow.
yeah, there's him on that tandem board.
That's the board.
Big long wood paddle, it looks like. Yeah.
Where'd you get the paddle?
That paddle was I got 3 paddles from Brad Gillespie, and Scott Bass turned me on to him, and he makes these beautiful wooden paddles. And as you can see in the next picture, that's the wooden paddle I'm holding up there between Jay and that other guy, and that thing's got a 10-inch blade. And I quickly learned that a paddle is more important than the board at that race. That thing was
Yeah.
a beast.
That's you said. So Dana Ocean Challenge later in 2006. It looks like you got a few more people joining you, including a female. Was she maybe the first California female to race?
Well, I'd say Jane was probably the first. And I mentioned, you'll have to ask EJ. I think it was in 2006. Gabby Reese did that Malibu
Okay.
race too. That time.
Yeah.
But I mentioned that Dana race was really funny because if you look at the times, I think Jane was first place, and she did a loop around the harbor on the inside. Few of us went to the green, few of us went to the red, so everybody at different times.
Did their own thing.
It was fun. It was a good time.
Well, I guess the sport is a little more organized if you actually don't choose your own race course and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So who else? I see Ron and Jane House.
I see
Who else?
Randy's here too.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Oh, no problem. We're stoked you're on here. Thank
Randy.
you. Yeah.
Hi.
Woo.
That guy on the left is Ted Rutherford, and he did a lot of stuff for C4 with Todd Bradley over the years.
So all of these are probably tandem boards or big boards. Are any of them specifically stand-up paddle boards yet in 2006?
I think the one Eric Diamond has is actually a stand-up board. He was with Honolulu Surf Company at the time, and I think that made also probably Ted's too, but that was before C4 started manufacturing boards. Jay, who's one of the biggest guys in the race there, he's on one of those Mickey Minot's, I think 12-foot Ultra Glides, 26 wide. I mean, that was the first production board before the Laird model came out by Surf Tech. I'm on an Infinity Tandem, which I thought was, I thought the bigger board would be better, but no, it had a lot of rocker too. And the guy on the right, it's Ryan. He was a shop guy at Infinity, and he's on like a windsurfer, I think. But no, not really specific stuff at that time.
Really fun. Hey, and we got Betsy too. Yay.
Oh, Betsy. Hi.
This is like a reunion, you guys. This is really fun for us.
I just got to say hugs to everyone.
Hey,
So
Betsy.
happy to hear everyone.
Hugs, everybody. 2006. So we're hoping to get Ernest Johnson, better known as EJ. He was here and we don't know where he went. So hopefully maybe one of you guys can text him, get him back on.
He went for
So
a beer.
Rob and Brandi, which one of you started first? Who wants to tell
Rob.
us?
I'm not on here.
Oh, there's EJ.
Correct.
Oh, sorry.
EJ.
So
EJ, we can't see you. Is it because you don't have clothes on? He said he was
Well,
naked before.
I lost connection, so I got to hit something. I got to fix
Oh,
it.
shoot. Maybe
Country
reload.
living, man.
We want to see your smiling face.
Can you see me?
No.
You see your name.
Do you see the,
Oh, there you are.
Woo!
I'm kind of in the dark. There we go.
Yeah. Didn't like it outside. It was too hot. So EJ, since you're on and you also started in 2006, why don't you tell us your story? So where'd you find stand-up paddling? Who'd you see doing it? How'd you start? And which race?
One of my beer drinking friends had some plastic windsurfers. I've told this story many times, but you know, it never gets old for me. And we went straight into Capitol Beach at Beach Road when it, like, the wind was blowing 15 miles an hour on shore. And that's how we learned, with some little canoe paddles. And then the first race I did, 2006, Tommy's on.
That was the one.
How was it? Oh, did we freeze?
He froze up.
Want to fill in for him, Chris? Were you at that one?
Yes, and
Pretty roots on the Malibu with no experience. So
yeah, I met EJ at that race. That was incredible. I remember, it was pretty glassy conditions, and we're at the start. We're waiting out there, and people are paddling off from the beach for a water start. And all of a sudden, I see this, like 4 or 5 people paddling out, and one guy's really moving. And we're all on like 12-foot boards, surfboards. And there's Laird Hamilton paddling out with this group of like 20 or so of us, and he's on this 16-foot board like I've never seen before. It looked like a
super narrow
streamliner or something like that. It was crazy. And then Gabby Reese and all her volleyball girls were coming out too. I was like, oh, hey, all right, I'll hang with them. And then I remember it was a beautiful paddle. We were just cruising along, and then there was thunder and lightning offshore. It was really, really beautiful. That was an amazing event. But I remember I'm sitting there at the finish. And it was one of the few times I was on the sand when EJ came in after me. And well, 2 times I think. But anyway, he comes up the beach, and he's got this windsurfer, and he's got this paddle that's got a handle like the staff of King Neptune. And I was like, look at that thing, man. We became bros and lived Sano for a long time and had a lot of fun adventures since. And
yeah, Chris, we did the Catalina Challenge together shortly after.
That's right. We did a lot of fun stuff.
Did you guys do that on the wet noodle? Was it the Ohana noodle? Remember that thing?
No, the first time we did it, it was called the Golden Slipper that Bill Stewart made.
Oh, the Stewart one.
It had a huge rocker. Yeah.
I sent her a bunch of pictures of that, EJ. It's really cool.
The gold.
But then Chris and I did rock
photos. They're beautiful.
Chris and I did Rock to Rock together. Remember?
A couple times.
So were you guys the first stand-ups then doing that? And were they pretty receptive, or did they kind of shrug their shoulders?
That was on the big one, the wet noodle.
Sorry, EJ, you're kind of cutting out.
For the Catalina Challenge, we were the second. The first year, Laird did it. And I think Laird, and also there was a 3-man team. I think it was Jay Butke, and it might have been Pelkey. And I'm not sure it's Mitch Kahn, but I remember I heard the story about those 3 guys going out really hard, and they're motoring along, and Laird comes up to him about an hour into the race, and he looks at him, he goes, hey, is that all you got? And he's gone solo, and he beats it like an hour. And he had like a big catamaran. We had like all his buddies on board, all the girls, music blast and the whole thing, and there he goes off in the distance. So we had to do that one, but EJ and Alan and put that thing together. Bill Stewart made us that crazy board, and we had so much fun. It was beautiful, but the photos are great. I love the photos of that event.
Breaking ground. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Robert, known as Rob Rojas by most of us. When did you start?
So I started in 2006. I started racing in 2008. The first time I ever jumped on a stand-up paddleboard was in 2006 when we did it was a fundraiser for lifeguards for Louisiana with Jim Bertzel, Mitch Kahn, Pelkey, Rob Pelkey, Chuck Patterson was there, and Scott Dietrich, and I think also Sean Kennedy, all a bunch of lifeguards. I was actually, Blaine Morgan was supposed to go, and then Blaine couldn't make it. He's a lifeguard legend. And kind of last minute, Bertzel asked me if I could take Blaine's place. So I said, yeah, sure. So it was a 50-mile paddle from from Dana Point to La Jolla. And we rode dories, we jumped on outrigger canoes and all that stuff. And the very last part of it was on a stand-up paddleboard, and that was in the summer of 2006. And I got hooked after that. But my first race was the Dana Point Ocean Challenge, and I wish I still had the board I raced on. It's actually it's down at the dock by the workboat, and it's like it still floats. It's got a ton of dings on it, but that's pretty much how I started. And at the Dana Point Ocean Challenge, I met the guys from Ohana, and they got me started. Started building Unlimiteds and all that stuff. And I've got a picture actually in my room. I'm sorry. Hope I'm not making you guys dizzy. I'm walking in the house right now. But
Sure. Well, I know we saw some boards in the background in the garage. So
yeah, I had some, I've got too many boards. It's funny, when I get a new board, I usually just try to hide it and then my wife won't see it.
You sound like the Risner household.
But I'm going to show you guys this one picture right here. Can you guys see it?
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
picture.
that's like that was from the 2009 Battle of the Paddle, the distance race, and I just remember those conditions were horrid. But they were just absolutely horrid conditions, super windy, just chop everything. And it was Danny got first, I got second, and then Tom Gallagher got third. And but and then just a whole slew of other races after that, and just a great time.
Was 2009, was that the first Battle of the Paddle, or 2008 was the first?
2008.
2008,
Yeah. 2009 was the first year they had a distance race. So
So Brandi,
Kristen, hi.
tell us. Thank you for jumping on.
Forever.
I know, just on the water, passing by.
My deal? That's what you want?
Your deal.
Well, first, I love that Terry's got like the full gym setup right behind her. So she's looking at that. Yeah, no, I actually started, because of Rob Rojas.
I'm blushing.
Oh.
I was at one time I was doing Ironman. So 2008 was when I was doing Ironman, and then that was the first year of the Battle of the Paddle. And Rob, I had seen him, like I was running or something. He's like, "Hey, you got to come out and do stand up." And I was like, "Yeah, I just don't really have time like in my life to train for anything else right now." And then after like having a foot injury and everything, like, and doing the Hawaiian Ironman, I literally like probably a month after I saw Rob, and he's like, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm ready to start doing stand-up paddleboarding." And so he's like, "Yeah, well, I'll be at the harbor tomorrow morning at 5:30. Like, come on down." And I did, and I just followed him and tried to draft him for a bit. And then that I think my first year I was also that Dana Ocean Ohana race. And
Can I interject?
Oh yeah.
You're being too humble, Brandi. So it was like 45, probably 50 degrees that morning. Brandi shows up in a bikini. All right. and I'm like, all right, let's do it. And it's pitch black out. We all have headlamps on, right? It was dark out. And we did our first piece was from the Dana Point Yacht Club to basically the bait barge, which was about a mile, right, Brandi?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, all right, let's just start off, and I'm going hard. And I'm like, oh man, let's see. And I've always known Brandi was a phenomenal athlete. I've known her. We grew up together. We swam together and all that stuff. And I'm like, I look back, we get to the bridge. I look back, she's right there. I get to further down. I look back, she's still right there. I'm like, holy shit, we get to the bait barge. You were right there, but this was Brandi's very first time on a stand-up paddleboard. So anyway, and then
Brandi
it just
does
take it from there.
not mess around.
I don't really remember like that. He was probably
it was
big
like
for
that
me.
for sure.
And the fact that you're willing to do it, like in the dark, right? Rob's known for the headlamp. You were like the early morning headlamp guy.
I know. He's
Cold,
still like that.
freezing. And we call that piece from the bait barge to the buoy, the Brandi. Because
You do?
yes,
Oh.
PP and I, when you used to, we used to try to chase you around, that you used to end our workouts with doing that 0.8 mile as hard as you could.
I got to get back to that because I don't really push myself enough in things anymore, but that's a good piece to make that to finish the practice.
Such an excellent athlete. So Dana Ocean Challenge for you too. Okay.
Yeah, that was
Terri.
my first one. And actually Jenny Kalmbach, she came out for that, right? And I remember, and she had won the Battle of the Paddle the year before. And I think I was talking to Russ from Ohana Paddleboards because he was letting me use his one of their boards. And then like they gave Jenny the good one or something like that. And I was like, what's up with that, right? But I think she was on an unlimited and I was on a stock board, and that thing was so tippy, you know, for that time. But yeah, and then, you know, a few months later was the Battle of the Paddle, that second Battle of the Paddle where they brought it into the surf. Because I think they changed the course after that first year, right? They started doing the in and out of the buoys. And before anybody ever thought that they'd ever have to surf a stand-up paddleboard. So none of the boards were actually made for surfing stand-up boards. I mean, Zane Schweitzer could surf anything, and we could show that. But yeah, no. So that was really cool. Like,
May I interject?
oh, and I forgot EJ in all the middle of that. Go.
Yeah, that was when you were with Starboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. So when by the time Battle of the Paddle came around, I was with Starboard. Yeah, and so we had those cut out
Oh, the canoe.
balls, yeah. And that's also when I was training all the time with EJ. And EJ was living on a sailboat at that time. And so we would go and we would practice the course in and outs all the time. And that was a lot of fun, actually. That was a lot of fun. But I remember going like during the Battle of the Paddle, I think that's the first time I'd ever like gone through like waves, you know, and I was like, wow, I made it through one, right? And then I made it through the second one, right? And then like I'm like, I don't even fall. But yeah, and then I did the distance race, and yeah, that was and then that was, you know, shoot, I think 5 or 6 years later. I don't know really how many years I did stand up. Maybe 5 years, I think. But it was a lot of fun. I got to travel a lot of places, and I went from Starboard then to Lahui Kai because everybody wanted to be on. Well, I wanted to be on a Lahui Kai because Jamie Mitchell and Shakira, right? Like they were the best at that time. And then I ended up going with Hobie, mostly because they were local, you know, and it was easier to like kind of get the boards and like feedback, and they were awesome. So they're still awesome people. But yeah, been a good
Cool. Cool. Well, we have so much gratitude for the SoCal Ocean Racing Series and their races because they were the first race for a lot of us. Betsy, where did you?
I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, really good.
Yay, I'm successful. My first race was in Park City, Utah on the Jordanelle Reservoir.
We remember that one well.
Yes,
I miss it.
I know, me too. I come from a windsurfing background, and I was in my friend's sunglass store in Park City and saw the boards hanging, you know, from his rafters in the shop, and I said, "Oh, windsurfing," and he says, "No, you know, stand-up paddleboarding, all new thing, and you would love it." And I was like, well, he says, "I'll meet you out at the lake tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. And I was like, I can't read. This was in the 1st of August, right? Well, Jordanelle Reservoir in the mountains, the water is not all that warm, and certainly not at 8 o'clock in the morning when the overnight lows are in the upper 40s. And so we got out there, Bob and I, and Marty brought a couple boards, and it was instant love for me. Bob was had a hard time with it. He had you know, his the accident and the spinal fusion and the whole deal. So he had right side was weaker. So he had a real hard time standing on the board, and I never fell, which didn't sit well with him. So,
But he worked at it and got better too.
He did.
Yeah.
He did, and so he overcame that. So our first race was a month later. I'm sorry, this was July that we first started. So the first race was teeny tiny race at the Jordanelle, and that's when we met Randy Olshan with H2O Overdrive. It was, you know, he was the sponsor of the race, and John Becker was the star of the show. And Matt Becker, who was I
His nephew.
15.
Oh,
Well,
15.
but he was 15, 14. He had just turned 14. And the wind was howling up and over the dam coming at us. So it was not fun. It was a cold, windy day. And we all took off, and I was third behind John and Matt Becker.
Woo!
And
Nice.
yeah.
You had a little taste of glory. I love that so many of you had kind of really tough first races, but still stuck it out.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So my next race then was, I didn't know anything about it at the time. And somebody at that race said, "Oh, are you going to Battle of the Paddle next month?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is." But the answer, yes, of course, we went.
So
And we
2009.
met-
So same as Brandi, you both were in the second one.
Yeah.
Yes. So we got out there, Bob and I got out there several days ahead of time. And so we walk up onto Doheny Beach, and we had heard this name of this guy, Rob Rojas, and he's, big, tall, handsome guy,
Who's that
rides an Ohana board. Yeah, handsome, dashingly handsome, I think was, anyway. And lo and behold, here he comes in all of his magnificence with this great big giant Ohana board. And I said, "Excuse me, but are you Rob Rojas?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." So Bob chatted him up for a long time, and Bob kept switching shoulders with the board because it was getting cumbersome. And, anyway, so yeah, it was.
Is that when you guys were doing the Goya events?
No,
big
it was
motorhome?
the next year. It was the next year.
2010.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I see it.
I love this stuff.
I still have a whole bunch of the stick packs. And I mean, it is so outdated, but I still drink it.
Probably still works, right?
Yep.
Terri Plunkett, my friend, we both started in 2010.
Pretty
How'd
much
you get into
almost
it?
like
But
the
you-
same event.
You had done it before then, though. You tried it way before I did, right?
I tried it because of Mickey Munoz.
His
Me- I-
70th birthday party. Remember, I told you you're all jacked. You're all.
Yes.
I go, look.
Yes, for real. That's how we met. And I go, nah. But then Mickey, I was surfing at the time, and I got to talking to him. I'm like, "Who's this strange guy?" When I was at Sano, I was just surfing, but he had a stand-up paddleboard on the side, and he was also in the process of maybe making that movie. I think it's Endless Summer 2. And where he had to like make a wool jacket in order to surf. And anyway, this guy was like rad. So I was starting to idolize him. Like, I want to do everything he's doing. He's living a life that I want to live. And got to talking with him, and I thought this sport was going to be easy. And he helped me out, like getting on my first board. And and then my first race was somewhere around I met Kristen, but we had paddled out and I didn't know anybody. It was like 2008. I remember this little woman, older woman ahead of me kicking my ass, and it was Peggy Munoz. And so she and him have like touched my heart because they've changed my life, with this whole sport and the people that I've met, the relationships.
What was your first race?
I think it was at Doheny. I think it was a Hennessy's. It was very cloudy. Oh, back to Brandi. I first saw you. I don't even know if I've told you this, Brandi, but I first saw you in 2009 win the Battle of the Paddle. Now, I had already stepped on a stand-up paddleboard, but I didn't know anything about the racing. And when I saw you cross the line. We weren't friends then. We didn't know each other, but I thought, holy shit, that is awesome. Can I say shit?
Yes, you can. You can say whatever you want. I'm not gonna stop.
And then my second encounter with Brandi was another. Hennessy races have been always like my favorite for like the whole event, the camaraderie, and then the party afterward. I remember once congratulating Brandi because she won somewhere in Santa Monica. And I said, "How do you get from like be from 10 to where you are number 1. And she said, you won't. I said, I did not know her.
Blunt Brandi, yes.
I said you don't.
Oh,
I don't know if I'm going to cry right now or I'm like, why? And then she told me why. Well, because, you know, she had trained as an athlete all her life. I'm just starting this gig at like age 40, you know, kind of thing. And it made practical sense. I'm like, that girl tells the truth. I like her. So that's
Real, that's
That
right.
started your friendship. Love that. Well, Byron couldn't be here and he was really bummed. And I was in the car and he told me some stories. So I'm just going to try to wrap up a little bit of his experience because it's part of my story too, because I started partly, I've known him, friends of friends, for like 40 years or something. And watching him do triathlons, kind of what you did, Brandi, didn't he do Ironmans? And
I didn't know that.
just
Yeah.
being
He's a
athletic
lot older than me, though.
through time. Not than me. But he said he had a few positive experiences with stand-up, but he was super resistant at first, like being in Hawaii and Hanalei Bay. It was big, but there were some people out there stand-up paddle surfing in 2003. That was the first time he'd really seen it, but the guy was super awesome. And he'd say, hey, set coming, 4 waves, you get the first one, or you get the 4th one, or and just was, you know, super welcome and friendly, like you just mentioned, Terri, the community. 2005, Ron House just being super open and sharing at Sano about stand-up paddling, but he said he still thought it was for old guys at that point in time, like it wasn't his thing. He was just regular surfing. And then another guy, Jim Buchnell, I probably have that wrong, but just again, the generosity and friendliness, which kind of cracks me up because he's always teased me about being too aloha and Pollyannish, but it sounds like that really is what turned him. He really saw that the community of stand-up and all the possibilities of it. And he went into a lot about like training with you, EJ, and you, Brandi, and the competitiveness and how that like how hard you guys worked kind of through 2008 and 9.
Yeah.
that was a closed group. Byron didn't invite anybody else. In fact, Brandi and I wanted to invite others. He wouldn't go. So
well, at the beginning, it was EJ versus Byron. Like, I was team EJ, and I wasn't a fan of Byron at all. No, it was because
kind of love hate.
Yeah,
super competitive.
He's competing against each other all the time. It was either Byron first or EJ first, at least on the end.
So you beat him at the beginning. You were his goal, EJ, was definitely to beat you. Yeah.
No way this long-haired hippie tattooed freak is going to beat a sponsor.
Hey, can I say an EJ story really quick? I remember that my very first time seeing EJ. Well, before I saw him on a stand-up paddleboard, I remember seeing this crazy tatted up guy with long hair, like just skateboarding up and down PCH, Pacific Coast Highway in San Clemente. And I'm like, man, that guy's crazy. But I mean, he's skating like 20 miles an hour on flat pavement, right? And I'm just like, oh, that guy's rad, you know, just got crazy hair like Fabio and freaking ripped and tatted up and all that. And then the next time I see him, he's got his sailboat anchored in front of the Dana Point jetty in front of Doheny. And that was the first time I had ever seen him stand up paddle. And he was on EJ. I think you were on one of those bark. It was an all black carbon fiber bark coastal gun, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember seeing EJ just doing sprints back and forth between his sailboat to the jetty. And I'm like, just going, this guy is rad, you know, but he's like, at the same time, he's intimidating looking, you know, like, yoke, tatted up, long hair and all that stuff. And man, I remember when I first started paddling, EJ was like, you know, you were one of those guys that, you know, you encouraged me and you were always there, you know. I always enjoyed saying hi to you by your sailboat, you and Andy. And so I thank you for that. But just fond EJ memories.
Great community. So just to wrap up Byron's story, his first one was Oceanside. So I'm guessing it's Byron, Becky Stewart, maybe. But he said he met this guy named Danny Ching. It was his first race also. And they both were blabbing away and missed the start of the race, which does not sound like either one of them at all because they were talking. But obviously another really strong personality in our stand-up paddling world. But my story just quickly, 2009, saw it at Sano. The very nice Clark family jumped off their boards and let anybody try it who wanted to try it. So again, that super friendly, inviting, inclusive environment. In Laguna, I had some friends who had that really huge layered board that 2 people had to carry down the stairs. And so some of us would, try that, but didn't get a board for Christmas as requested, went out and bought my own. It happened to be Rick Carr at Rogue, and he was off to Surf Expo. So he had a couple boards to get rid of, but he gave me great advice because I didn't know if I wanted, what I wanted to do. He said, this is an all-arounder. It'll work for these things, but if you race, you're going to want to get a race board. If you surf, you're going to want to get a surfboard. But my 11.2 Rogue worked for me for quite a while, as many of you know. Wet Wednesdays in the harbor. When I met a lot of you guys, I used that. But Hano, January, 3 weeks after getting my board, he had told me about that, and I didn't know people to paddle with, so I thought that was a good place. I did get, I now know him as Steve from West Wind, yelled at me and said, hey lady, you don't have to wear a full wetsuit when you paddle. I did the opposite of Brandi. I sweated out 10 pounds, I think, in 3 weeks because it was January, so I thought I should be wearing my full suit, my surfing suit. It was way too hot and I didn't fall in, but I did practice. And then I met Diane Wenzel, who I went to my high school. She was in front of me paddling, lovely community, got hooked on it, and I'm still hooked on it. So I still race all the time. I invited Eric from On It Pro because I really want to thank, the businesses, some have come and gone, but Eric's one of those mainstays who has been at so many of our races with his booth. We're using his great product. They're physically doing it, and he's a photographer and has taken so many rad shots through the years. So it's
Thank you, Eric.
Cool to see that.
Insane.
Maybe tell us a memory of some early racing that you just remember, whether it's people or the place or a story about an early race.
Well, we got into the industry, the surf industry, in about 2006, 2007. We were doing some longboard events. Hey, Ryan, I love that sweatshirt there.
Yeah, Rob's got his On It Pro.
We started doing some longboard events and things like that. And then we ended up going to the Surfarama, and that's where we met Mr. Chuck Patterson for the first time. We didn't really know anything about stand-up paddleboarding. I've been a surfer my whole life. I didn't know anything about stand-up paddleboarding. I live up by Malibu over here, and I never saw anybody. So I heard Laird doing some crazy stuff, but I never saw anybody doing it until Chuck. And we went down to the first event that I met Chuck at. It was the U.S. Paddleboard Championships down in, I think it was Hermosa, Manhattan, one of those places. It was in July of 2008. And I remember Chuck had this huge board. It was a one-off Hobie thing, and it had this like an orange nose that was painted on there, and it was just some one-off giant board that he paddled in. And there was maybe just a half a dozen or a dozen stand-up paddle boards at the time, which was really interesting. Like I said, I didn't know anything about it, and kind of got us really going. And I'll tell you, the stand-up paddle industry really helped with our business at the time because the surfing industry at that time was kind of in a downward slope, and then all of a sudden the stand-up paddle thing hit, and it just kind of helped a lot of people during that time. So and first of all, I just love all you people, by the way, all you athletes and stuff. You've been just great, and I'm just been so stoked to be able to work with every single one of you. EJ, we met him at a trade show years ago. I remember walking up to him a little bit all nervous, bringing him my product the first time, going, who is this guy? And just like Rob was saying, he was very intimidating. Oh, he's had the hair and the tattoo. But, as soon as I started talking to him, the first thing, he was like the nicest guy. I'm like, wait, what is this? Really a great guy. And one of our other first people we met, I met Alan Shalom from Better Surf. And Alan kind of hooked us up with Brad Gaines over at Paddle Me, who then hooked us up with Al Ching, who then hooked us up with Danny Ching at the time. Danny was still doing the outrigger canoes and whatnot, and he was just starting to get into the stand-up paddleboarding. So we kind of came in at a really good time when it was just starting to really get going. And again, my first few events, I only took maybe 50 pictures, and by the time last few events, I would take a couple thousand photos, which are still up on our Facebook page if anybody wants to go see them. Maybe one of these days, Kristen, we can do something, pull out some old photos and, do something like that. I've got so many great ones. It's just so hard to go through them all.
Well,
So that's my experience. I love you guys. And, I met Betsy at the H2O event. They brought us out there and we came out to see that, met Bob, and they were such great people, had such a great time in Park City. And it's just a great industry with just great people, compared to the surfing group. Stand-up paddle group, this group was just, everybody was just like together and everybody would help each other. And, they would give each other the hot tips on the secret. I mean, nobody was like holding back my product. They would share it with all the other racers instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to hold it for myself. Everybody was always sharing, and it was just such a great community. And we just fell in love with every single one of you people. So I love you all.
Thanks. Well, we appreciate all you.
Love you too, Eric.
Hey, thank you for everything you've done, Eric, for all that. I mean, I have never seen anybody work as hard as you on all of our boards and just every race. You just work ass off to
and Sophia. Yeah, both of you polished.
Yeah. Okay, I tell you a quick Rob story. The first time I met Rob Rojas was at going to Betsy's event. And we got up the airport.
It's Betsy's event.
Well, I don't want to say what it really was, right? The Brandi or whatever. But anyway, I get off the plane. I had a rental car, and next thing I see Chuck Patterson come off the plane, and I asked Chuck if he wanted a ride, and instead of taking a taxi, and then all of a sudden Rob was with him. And I never met Rob. That's the first time we met, and so I had them both in my car, and I drove them out to Park City for the first time. And we stopped over at the Subway over there, and because they wanted something to eat, and I figured, I'll just buy these guys some lunch, And myself, when I go to Subway, I just get like 1/2 6-inch. And Chuck and Rob both ordered 2 extra large sandwiches, 2 of them each. And at the time that I ate the 1/2, those 2 ate both sandwiches. I just couldn't believe it. What a story about Rob, and just great people. I love you all, and I'll let you guys go on.
Great stuff.
Awesome.
Love you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
So,
real quick, Eric, our car broke down in Key West, our Sprinter van. Eric was so kind at the time. He sponsored us with product and helped us out. He actually sent us some funds to Westy's house, help us get our Sprinter van fixed. And man, Eric, much love for that gesture. Your karma I'm sure it's paid you, but never forget that. It was so freaking cool, man.
Hey,
really cool.
My pleasure, buddy. Love you and Andy.
Well, a bunch of races have come up, and a lot of them are series like the Hobie's Hennessy's and SoCal Ocean Racing Series. Wet Wednesdays were a really fun thing that a lot of us did. Having that local little race in the harbor, I think, was awesome. And there were some unofficial races that I think were allowed to bring up. I don't know what they were called. I was in on one of them where you did a lap and you drank an adult beverage every single lap. And then you had to get on a different size board. That was one of the rules. What was that? What did we do?
How fun.
Wasn't it Bob and Lance?
Oh, so that's another race.
That was
Sterling, I think.
Freedom race.
Do that.
Yeah. Betsy, tell us about the paddle to freedom. Or you're telling EJ?
No, the talking about was started by Pete Sterling and Byron Kurt and text own, and it was 3 laps and 4 beers. So 3 different boards, 3 laps and 4 beers. Chug, do a lap, change boards, chug, and vice until you finish. And it was not easy. So, but it was round, and we kept. Rob knows.
Yeah, it got harder, definitely. I think Andy, your lovely wife, EJ, and I were the only women the year I did it, but I know, Brandi, you'd done it before, right? Or did you ever do that?
I don't remember. I remember getting on an unlimited unlimited prone board for something, but maybe it included beer.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to remember that race after you do it.
All right, so can I talk about the 50 ounces to freedom real quick?
That's it. We should have a reunion.
We should. And we always say that, and somebody needs to just organize it and just do it and set a date, that kind of stuff. But so the 50 ounces to freedom was brought on because Bob and Lance Erickson had such a competition about who was stronger.
And they were
So
we were at that little Mexican restaurant, and they were talking shit to each other, and I'm like, let's settle it tomorrow.
that's exactly
Two
right.
faucets.
That's right.
There's still
And
video of it.
one faucet. I go, I'm gonna see it. We're gonna settle this battle tomorrow. So it was
It was
and
so
we have film to
spur of
prove
the
it.
moment. So spur of the moment, and a lot of people are like, well, wait a second, I wanted to do that, and why didn't somebody tell me? And it was just, I love like Bob. Oh, you're so good, Rob. Anyway, but Bob, being so as competitive as he is, knew that Lance was a much better paddler than him, and neither of them were beer drinkers. So they had to down, what was it? How big? A 50
A really big one.
Oh, can of Foster.
Fosters.
Oil can.
Yeah, and so then they had to be in the water, down that, jump on their board and start paddle. So, they had to drink the beer before they could get on the board. And, Lance was all gagging.
Rob and
And-
Brandi, it was the bait barge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basically, yeah, that wind
the
and sea
bridge.
at Jolly Roger to the bridge. And it's not easy. But the best part was Westy and I were, and Westy should be on this too. He's rad. We were at the finish line, and we had to make sure these guys finished their beers. And what I really loved about Bob was he kind of dropped his in the water a little bit, and I'm like, hey, you're gonna finish that. He goes, wait, there's oil. There was an oil slick in beer can in it, so he literally drank oil upon that and still won the race. And so Bob's, man, I love that freaking guy forever. Freaking
Yep.
miss him.
Yeah.
The best,
Thanks, Bob.
EJ.
Is that a beautiful
Look
EJ
at
paddle?
that beautiful paddle.
Yeah. Surprise.
Wow.
Oh,
Hey,
so-
Chris,
while we're on the subject of alcohol and excess, I will say that in 2008 and 2009, I hosted the Ohana team here at my place in Dana Point on the Headlands. We had some kick-ass post-Battle of the Paddle parties. They were all time. In the morning, I'd find
Oh, good.
paddles and guitars and all kinds of stuff around here. It was awesome. Rojas, you've been there. I know that.
Oh yeah.
I
No,
remember Jamie Mitchell coming up with a cooler full of gin and tonics, and Jimmy Terrell, all his buds, and we just partied into the night. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. Good
Yes.
times.
this
Great
crowd
memory.
works hard and plays hard and
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
big
Oh.
hearts. I wanted to share a memory from, am I holding it upside down? San Clemente Ocean Fest.
Yeah.
One of,
Oh.
I think the first one that Terry and I were paddling together.
Right.
I just was so moved that
Yeah.
Gallagher had
Tom
something
Gallagher.
happen, and he was just barely able to paddle, and he had been one of the top guys and had lost his balance. And there were three of you, and I don't remember who it was. I think
Bob was there.
Thomas Maximus, but they were faster paddlers were staying with him and paddling with him that race. And it was like, oh my God, these people are so good, good hearts. Is
You know,
that
the
from-
thing Gallagher,
yeah, go
Tom
ahead.
one of
Look
those.
at all those signatures on there.
That's
Oh,
for sure.
wow. That's so awesome.
Yeah. Rob, Tom?
No, Tom Gallagher. I mean, he's doing well. I mean, the last time I saw him, he was doing awesome. I saw him
Good.
at the last that Paddle for a Purpose that's put on by Jody Nelson up in Long Beach.
Yeah,
But
Adler Paddler.
Tom is one of those guys I just will never forget. taking off at the starting line when we were in Racing Unlimiteds. And he was one of those guys that would just reel you in and reel you in and reel you in. And he was relentless. I mean, he still is. But when we were all Racing Unlimiteds together, he was just, one of those guys that would just, he was a second half paddler. He would always paddle faster during a second half. And that's just a testament to the type of athlete that he was, being an Ironman triathlete and just endurance athlete, just an amazing human being.
Well, how interesting that Byron said almost the same thing about you. He said they had a nickname for you,
yep.
the horse, because you make a lot of noise when you breathe, but they would hear you coming up from behind, because Byron said he was a better starter, but he didn't hang in there, and you would come up from behind and they'd hear you breathing.
Finisher.
But one of those guys that, man, he's got that fighting spirit, and that's what, and I love the guy, and I miss him too. And, but it's funny. I think it's probably just because I have a deviated septum. So I'm just a loud mouth breather.
Oh, good. It works.
Yeah.
You're getting oxygen, right?
Okay.
So I think the some of my early races and memories were some of the fundraisers and stuff too. You talked about Adler Paddler. That was really special one. I didn't know Steve Adler. I think some of you guys did. And oh yeah, that was the wax.
No,
Awards have always been so
walking
cool.
floor.
The wax from the floor, the shaping floor. Yeah.
We're
we're
on
like,
Steve Adler's place.
yeah.
Wow.
Really cool stuff. Paddle for Humanity. That was a Pete Sterling thing, wasn't it?
That was Pete. That was
Yeah. That was a cool one, and that was one of the first times I did the fundraising team. There's more of that.
I won the first year we did that. I
Mhm.
won. I was the top fundraiser for that race because it was also a fundraising thing, right? And
Yeah.
I
For
got,
Surf Aid, I
got
think.
a stainless steel water bottle. And the second year, Mark Carlisle was the top fundraiser. He got a trip to Mentwise.
Oh.
What?
Damn.
But no,
Wrong
he gave
year.
it away to auction off, so he's a good guy. I mean, but I was like, come on. I would have gone.
Yeah. Yeah, we this
Yeah.
group is pretty central Southern California, between LA and San Diego, but I wanted to mention a few. I mean, there really has been some great stuff in San Diego and LA, and Mike Vaughn, who we lost recently, and there's a paddle out for him on Saturday, was paddle for clean water, everything that was happening around Marina del Rey, Pro Sup Shop. I mean, he's so involved, and such a big involved in the sport and in the surfing, and also putting things on and being a part of that. So there's a lot of great stuff up there. San Diego has had, Moonlight Beach and Powerhouse, and again, sometimes we're added in as an extra sport, and sometimes they were things that Seaside Slide. What's that one?
Hip slide,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that was, I remember.
The
getting
loop,
caught-
they barred stand-up paddlers.
Yeah.
They did.
But
Yeah.
I think that, step back and look at that. It's totally fair. We have some things like Battle the Paddle that we started that didn't have any other water sports. So sometimes a sport wants to have something that's their own. I got actually dared to do that when they kicked out SUP that year, and I did 12 miles prone, and I've never done prone. One of the Buckingham brothers gave me their board, and I did 12
I
miles.
did it with you.
I couldn't lift my arms.
Oh my God. You ladies are awesome.
Those SoCal Ocean Race Series, I'm a long believer in the reason why Californians were, because really took off in California first, the sport did. And we had a lot of, we'd go back and paddle back east, and we'd be, a lot better than everybody else then. But that's because the SoCal Ocean Race Series, people really embraced us early.
Mhm.
Nobody else had a format to race
Yeah.
in.
Mhm.
And so we literally, we were racing not year round, but a good 6 months out of the year, I think, and for a couple years before anybody else even thought about having a race. So I think that's why California really got the jump on the sport.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And
It
they're
was.
still going. Pre-COVID, they're still going strong. And I think the SoCal Race Series will after COVID's all done and all that
Mhm.
stuff, they're going to be kicking butt again.
Hey, I did Wild Buffalo Relay virtual. That was the first virtual race that came along. I've now done like 3 event virtual leagues. I'm a junkie.
Yeah.
I have to race. So even if it's on my
Kristen, I want to say, I don't know, I cannot think of any other paddler, female paddler, that could even come close to the amount of races you have participated in.
You have a count?
No. Yeah, I should count. I mean, especially if you count Thirsty Thursdays and Wet Wednesdays, our little evening race series thing.
You should
But
count.
that's because we have them available year round. There aren't that many places in the world that have the setup, like Brandi just said, SoCal Ocean Racing Series. I do them all, and but it's about you guys. It's about the people and staying connected. It's like the community thing to do on a Saturday morning, to connect with your ohana, and I like physical seats and I like competition.
And also remember that the SoCal series was affordable. It was $25.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
So
helped.
Wait.
thank you, Chance Adair, for all your years and dedication.
Yes.
Yes.
And to provide a basic lunch snack afterwards and keep it affordable instead of $100.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, though. We have to remember, when people try to put on races, it's going to cost them much more, because it's put on by a club, and the generosity of that outrigger club to make us the lunch. They have a facility, so they don't have to pay for how much. It's insane what it costs Battle of the Paddle, and
they weren't making money. They were just donating their time to cover costs.
So like Brandi said, huge. I will shout out number 5 to them, because that's been such a huge part of why I think Southern California was super successful. There have also been fun different groups and things. NCP, North County Paddlers. I know they're mostly prone, but they are so welcoming on a Thursday morning. You can go down there. Anybody can paddle with them, and they have a workout on Thursday mornings.
Well, they have Tuesdays and Thursdays, the Lagoon workout, and then they did Cardiff Reef as well. And I participated in that for years, and just a great Rock Fry is a wonderful trainer. Much aloha, and that guy rules.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. There's the SoCal SUP chicks. A lot of the women that I raced with in the first few years were from a Oceanside group that just grew to be huge, and they were super inclusive too. You didn't have to live there or come down, but they had paddling events, and then some of them got into racing. A lot of races came and went. RSP, Surf Tech. I think that's where I won a Surf Monkey, though, so I remember that one well. Hano. And we were talking about the support of stores as well as businesses.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the community and the fun. I mean, we've had some great parties at Stand Up Paddle Company in Laguna Beach, and thank you to them for all that they did around Battle of the Paddles. I'm wearing a t-shirt. TP, you and I are on this shirt. Sup Love made a t-shirt, and because that's what happens when you get in early. They use your picture on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Randomly, like we had no idea.
Awesome.
I'm weird.
Yeah.
I had that sticker on my board for a while. And not all of you did this one, but do you guys remember Mandy
Oh,
McDonald?
I do.
Oh yeah.
That was the
This
best.
was not really a race, but it was a really, really fun event, and it was a costume thing
It was
and
X-rated.
around Halloween. So those are some of my memories. This definitely, Betsy, I remember racing with you, Battle of the Paddle, but getting one of these, being a part of Battle of the Paddle that isn't around anymore, is probably one of my most prized possessions. But a lot of the things are like like that t-shirt that you just showed, Eric. I have one poster from M to O that everybody's signed. It's memories of people and places that I think are the biggest things.
Hey, can I say about Battle of the Paddle really quick?
Absolutely.
Sparky and that whole era. I mean, Sparky lost thousands of dollars every year he put on that race. And I know the stuff that, happened, or drama and all that stuff. And, I don't know all the stories, regarding why the Battle of the Paddle stopped, but huge thanks to Sparky and Rainbow Sandals, those guys, for just, they got this sport going and started just a freaking momentum
They blew it up. They blew it up.
They sure
Jerry,
did.
it blow it up, like in a good way.
Yeah.
So
Now remember the energy in the air at Battle of the Paddle the first anytime. There was so much energy in the air. Just the vibes were so intense, crazy, and good at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Bring it back in 21.
So yeah, as much of all our local events are wonderful and we've connected so much, having that international event here is really cool. And we're really lucky, I think, that we had that for so many years, and still hoping something comes back, but questionable. But I know I got connected with people around the world because I, like you, Eric, I got a good spot in the chicane and took pictures the first year of absolutely everybody and posted them all. And like you do, Eric, there's, you know, again, understandable that some media only take pictures of the top 3 or the top 10, but everybody else really wants their picture, and people came from all over the world. So at that point in Facebook, you had to be friends with people. So I think I got a couple thousand friends from the first paddle on Facebook. Friends, yeah. People I didn't know, but I'd somehow taken a picture. They wanted to tag the picture.
People coming up to me asking me, how come you didn't get my picture? How come you didn't post my picture? I would say, you know, that this was at the beginning, that, you know, I'm just here to take pictures of the athletes that I'm working with. And some of the events thought that I was paid for at the event. So everybody was coming to me, you know, asking me for their picture. So I just got to a point where, all right, everybody's asking, I might as well stand here and just take pictures of everybody coming in. And that's why that happened, because people were just asking me all the time. And so I would sit there and wait till pretty much everybody came in as much as I could. It was hard to do that sometimes on these long distance races and whatnot. But
Eric, we are all grateful. I mean, it was so fun to look through all of the pictures. I was like, oh, there I am. Well, and let me just say this about one of the races. Bob, I don't remember what race it was, where it was. I did a whole bunch of Florida races in like a January, February time span. And, but I mean, and it wasn't then, it was in California, and he couldn't be there with me. And he said, what are you wearing so I can look for you in pictures? And he went through immediately, you know, as soon as you posted pictures, and picked out every single picture of me. So I am very grateful for all of the pictures you took, for standing there forever.
Yeah.
I would tell people that, you know, if you want to get a good picture of yourself too, you know, wear something that's bright or some good contrast with the water and the color of the water, because some people would just wear white, or their boards were white, or it just kind of blends in. And, you know, you start wearing colors and just really pops.
Yep.
So I'm glad that it was nice when all the women started paddling and going out there too. It was just really just made the sport just incredible.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Eric Benitez has posted a few thank yous for always spreading the love to Eric and to Brandi for getting Erica into it. And he has one more in here somewhere. Anyway, I just found Facebook, and there are a bunch of comments if you guys want to go look at it later.
Hey, Kristen, one thing before I just want to throw this in, Mike Vaughn paddle thing this weekend. If anybody, if you're there, please find me. I have a special card that I want all the athletes to sign to present to the family. So please find me at the event so you can sign the card. That's it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
We'll see you up there. Yeah. Well, I took over an hour. Sorry. I promised I would only have an hour of your time. You guys need to go eat dinner or anything, but it was really fun to chat about early times before. I know I learned a lot actually about everything getting started. And we are, I know Terri and Chris, and we've talked about, like, history is kind of a funny word when it's a new sport still, but it's time to start kind of documenting and collecting. And I know Chris has done a lot of that, and Terry's really interested in that. And hey, maybe we can get ourselves in that. Should we put it out there? Surf Heritage Museum that's moving to the harbor and may have more space, or, you know, it'd be fun to have that kind of space and everything. So
I think it would make an impact, you know, just, you know, kind of where you guys are, like how it originated, because we don't want it to become watered down. We want it to stay like this. And so if we keep telling our story.
Yes. It stays new and it stays fresh.
Yes.
And Brandi, thanks for joining us from work.
Yeah, I
Didn't
know.
get you in
Sorry.
trouble. I'm glad you didn't get a call while we were
I
on.
know. Well, I was like, do you think it's okay if I go on a Zoom social media thing like in uniform? You know? And they're like, just
Oh,
don't
my
be late to get a call.
And I'm not going to forget, I heard you say you needed to stand up paddle again.
I've paddled
We
like,
gotta start doing our San Clemente laps.
oh yeah, I know. So hey, side note, really fast. Rob lives a couple streets over from me, and he carries his board down to the beach like 3 blocks, you know. And I'm like, I can't even stand up paddle because like my SUP board won't fit in my surf racks on my bike, you know. So, but Rob carries it. So and Mike's like, I'll drop you off at the beach. So Rob, yeah, or maybe you can carry both.
Hey, look, all you guys are invited too. It's it's fun. It all started with this whole COVID thing when you couldn't park down by the beach. So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna hike down from my house, and
Gotta walk. Yeah.
park anywhere, So
And Betsy, we want you to come out and visit.
yes.
The COVID thing has to
yeah.
go away, and I've been going to Florida for the winters. I live in Wisconsin now, and I actually have a bidding war going on. I probably shouldn't say that. I have a bidding war going on my Florida house right now. So I'm just like trying to look at messages, and it's like, okay.
Well, good luck. I hope that comes out the way you want it to.
Me too.
But
I will have to come out and visit when the COVID is gone.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
we don't have to wear masks. We can see
yeah.
each other.
There you go. There you go. I
Okay.
love you guys. It's so good to see
We-
you and hear your voices.
Thank you all so much for taking
you.
some time. I think it was fun.
Thank you.
You had
Do
fun
it again.
too.
Take care, everybody. I'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.
So